Hey cohort! My presentation is on working with couples when addiction is present. So the question might be posed by some why addiction is so important to know about when working with couples. I'm sure most of you know that the opioid crisis is something that we're currently living in, and it is increasing every year. Also, alcohol and other substance abuse is the cause of more deaths, illnesses, and disabilities than any other preventable health condition, and consequently, it's undermining family life, the economy, and public safety. Currently, drug overdoses have tripled between 1999 and 2015 in the United States alone. In 2015, an estimated 17.8 out of every 100 people in the United States used illicit drugs. Now that's just talking about use, not addiction, but we all know that use can lead to addiction. And Michigan's rate of substance use disorders in adults is between 6.53 and 7.04%. So in between 5 and 10% of the population in Michigan is dealing with some sort of substance use disorder. So the impact it makes on the families surrounding those individuals is huge. We're not only going to talk about substance use disorders in this presentation and methods that work with those, we're also going to tackle some that can work with gambling addiction and sex addiction as well. So 3 techniques we're going to look at today are behavioral couples therapy, congruence couples therapy, and emotionally focused couples therapy. Between all 3 of these, you can find something that works with substance use, gambling, and sex addiction. So first up is behavioral couples therapy. This focuses on 12 to 14 sessions with the couple. You begin with an addiction-focused session, or a few, and then once that foundation is made, then you go on to move to relationship-focused sessions. Now, behavioral couples therapy is assuming that the clients want to remain free from substances as their main goal. And appropriate couples will not have psychiatric illnesses present. It's ineffective, they've found, with couples that are dealing with psychiatric illness as well. Couples learn and practice new skills in sessions, and this is one of those therapy types where you would implement homework. One of the foundations of behavioral therapy with couples as well with addiction is including a contract for a commitment to relationship behaviors as well as the substance use behaviors. Behavioral couples therapy, like I said earlier, focuses at first on the substance-focused interventions. So this could include educating clients on the use of a recovery contract. This would be done as a couple, but it would obviously focus more on the person in the relationship that has the addiction. Sometimes in this intervention, drug screen results are implemented as a way of showing transparency and building trust and honesty throughout the therapeutic process. And also part of the substance-focused interventions would be identifying triggers for that person's use. Then you move on to relationship-focused interventions. The goal of these is to help families gain a greater positive feelings about the relationship. Chances are when they're dealing with addiction, they are stuck in this negative cycle of communicating with one another. A lot of blame, a lot of negative feelings about one another, a lot of negative interaction. So the therapist is focusing on helping couples learn communication skills that improve conflict resolution. So not only are they getting out of these negative conflict cycles, but we're also doing things that are going to help not trigger the substance use of the person who has the addiction. The couples agree at the onset of behavioral couples therapy that their goal is to act more lovingly towards one another. So these are people that want to work on the problem and don't want to dwell in the past. They want to move forward. And the couples are going to assess any changes in feelings that they have throughout the process instead of waiting to feel better and then change their behaviors because they think, oh, now I feel better and I love this person more, so I'm willing to work on it. Kind of do the opposite. Let's work on these behaviors and then see what feelings and improvements happen afterward. Next up is congruence couples therapy. There are 12 weekly sessions typically with this. It's a humanistic systemic approach. This one is ideal for gambling and sex addictions. And it helps the addicted client abstain from their behaviors that have to do with addiction and use while exploring the triggers and factors that led to the use and the abuse and the addiction. It's based off of Virginia Satir's work, and one of the foundations is that there's no blaming of partners. So again, this method of therapy, we're getting out of negative cycles. So the focus of this is congruent communication and recognizing those negative cycles. Again, couples will express their feelings in terms of their hopes and dreams. So for example, if you had a couple where the wife was saying, Harry spent all of our money, he's a bum, he's ruined everything, we're poor now, I'm ashamed, the couple would turn that into something like, my dream was always to be a homeowner and to have my daughter go to this really nice school district and have a better future, and Harry's gambling and spending of our money has made it very difficult for me and for our family to reach that dream. So it turns it away from blaming and calling that person names onto, this is how it's affected our life, this is how it's disrupted where we want to go in our future. Another thing that you're going to do in this type of therapy is identify the motivation behind the initial use or the initial action. So for example, Harry's gambling. You would want to go back to the time that he started gambling, what he was thinking during that time. It could be something like he wanted his family to have that bigger house and move into that better school district, but his income wasn't making ends meet. So he went to gambling to try and make that dream come true for the family, and ended up getting hooked and in this cycle where he's making it worse and making it worse and making it worse. Throughout this therapeutic technique, you are going to be increasing the couple's self-esteem. And how you do that is by celebrating small changes. So if the wife and Harry are starting to interact in a more empathetic way toward one another, if the wife is starting to show some understanding for how Harry got into gambling in the first place, or Harry is starting to interact more positively and be like, oh, I understand where she's coming from and why she's so upset, you are going to celebrate those successes in therapy. And that is going to increase their self-esteem and their trust in the process and their investment in the process. Through this, you're going to be exploring some family of origin things. Could be that Harry's father was not a high earner, and Harry doesn't want to recreate history. Could be that when Harry was younger, he didn't get much nurturing and he didn't have that strong of self-esteem, and so he's fighting some of those feelings. You don't know until you dig into that, but also that family of origin exploration is also going to build that empathy for the partner that is not the one having the addiction, and help them interact in a more empathetic way with their partner. The therapist is going to be doing modeling of listening and building empathy in hopes that the couple will learn and start doing those with each other. Finally, we have emotionally focused therapy. This was developed in 1985 by Johnson and Greenberg. It is brief. It incorporates experiential, humanistic, and family systems approach, and it is rooted in the attachment theory. It is ideal for sex addiction. The focus remains on the present as couples work in the process and do not remain stuck in the past. So if you're a therapist who's doing this approach, you are working from the now and moving forward. It's brief, so we're not going to spend a bunch of sessions digging into the past. It's where are we today and how are we going to be moving forward. So your job as the therapist is to help the couple develop a secure and safe foundation where they can explore their problems. You're setting boundaries, you're setting communication rules. This is the type of therapy where we're setting the standards right away in the first couple of sessions that the couple is expected to adhere to, so they're not digging into the past, they're not insulting one another. It's a safe space, they're unified, we're working on new cycles of secure bonding, and we're reframing the relationship dynamics. And what they're really doing is they are using their emotions to guide and explore the meaning behind how they feel. So if something is said and somebody gets really angry in a session, you're going to explore that anger. You're going to explore the emotions that are behind that anger. What is behind the anger? What are we really feeling? Do you feel angry with other people in this way? Have you felt angry in this way in other relationships? What are some other times in your life where you felt comparable to this? And it's going to be explored. The first phase that you're going to do is that de-escalation. So you want to take that anger out of the situation. You want to take any negative behaviors, any reactive emotions out of the situation. That's the first step with a couple. Then you're going to change how they interact with one another. There's going to be modeling, role-playing, empathy building, figuring out how the other one feels at this phase. And then the third is reconsolidating that relationship, building them back up into a unified unit, moving forward, and integrating all of those communication techniques that they've learned. So all three of these approaches are ideal for the eclectic therapist, which is what we've been told over and over again we're likely to be. So I hope that you guys learned a little something about these three techniques that you can use moving forward with families. And here are my references.